President Biden losing major ground now with voters on what could be the #1 issue in the midterm elections. A new ABC poll finds a whopping 69% of people who took the survey disapprove of the president's handling of gun violence. 64% disapprove of how he's handling crime overall. Pete Hegseth is co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Pete, glad to have you in focus today. Let's just start with that. Get your reaction to those numbers, those statistics about where the president is on violence and crime.
Well, those numbers don't lie. People see what's happening in their own communities, in our major cities, and they make decisions for themselves, not based on the spin from the White House. If you look at those numbers a little deeper, look at the numbers with independents, people who are not wedded to a political party. And independents are overwhelmingly siding with the belief that the Biden administration is not addressing crime at all. And take what Jen Psaki said there, is what even is soft on crime policies? They can't own up to it because the summation of their policies are to be soft on crime, whether it's criminals or illegals, because they know what's soft on crime policies, because they've been critical of tough on crime policies, of Republicans and others who crack down on crime too hard. Well, if you want to be for another approach, what do you want to call it? And you know what average people, like 69% of Americans, call it? Soft on crime. When you're not deporting people who are criminals, when you're facilitating transportation across the country, when you're letting people go repeat violent offenders, when bail is effectively ignored, when prosecutions are not happening of major crimes, when theft doesn't matter, when assaulting a police officer is just a petty misdemeanor and people are released. That is the very definition of soft on crime. And it is Democrat-run cities, counties, and states where this is prevalent. And as a result, we're seeing cops being shot at in broad daylight, not in just dangerous neighborhoods, but in prominent neighborhoods. And that might be the moment when someone like Jen Psaki wakes up. There was a little bit of that moment in Los Angeles. Remember that when Beverly Hills and Hollywood and these other places were seeing some violent crime, the politicians finally said, whoa, 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 not in my backyard. Maybe it's coming somewhere else, but it's obvious that soft on crime policies are leading to this.
Look, there'll be a couple of times when we can measure their response, right? The next time Jen Psaki or someone with the White House is asked about it, maybe try a new idea for once. I mean, they're going to laugh, they're going to panic. Strategy's never on the list. I mean, when you ask about these things, you get a giggle from Jen Psaki. You get panic yesterday as the president sat with the National Governors Association, opened the room up for questions, and then they went, oh my gosh, get the media out of here. We didn't, they didn't know he was going to do that. It was supposed to be just for the governors. But you don't see strategy. It's amazing. Let's get to this because you mentioned our loss with officers right now. Those who were being ambushed, attacked, and killed, and also those who were just leaving the force. The wake for Officer Wilbert Mora is set for today. This is a live picture right now. Officers are gathering at the church, the cathedral, right now as a procession is underway. Officer Wilbert Mora is the partner of Jason Rivera, who was just laid to rest last week. They were together in that ambush a week ago, a little bit more than a week ago now. And so now the procession heads to the cathedral, and we do this again. Also, the funeral for Corporal Charles Galloway, who was killed in Houston in an ambush there on Sunday, is happening right now. Our prayers of strength and love are with these families. Pete.
As they should be. Those images in Houston, certainly the images we saw last week from Officer Rivera. I will be there tomorrow morning for Fox and Friends for covering the funeral for Officer Mora. And I think there's a reason, the brazen nature of these, the goodness of the officers, the evil of the criminality, the recklessness with which crime is pursued, is, let's hope, a wake-up call. And we saw tepid editorials from the New York Times. We've seen tepid things said by the mayor, half measures. The reason they can only use half measures in response to this crime crisis is because the things they've advocated for, not as much in the mayor's case, but certainly in prominent Democrats in the New York Times' case, the things they've been advocating for are the reason we're in the place we are. So are you going to self-indict and course correct? Or are you going to say, well, it's just a gun problem, or, well, it's just it's a COVID problem, or it's an economic opportunity problem, as opposed to being honest about where crime comes from? Family breakdown's a big part of that as well. and going at it with more police in dangerous areas. We can debate everything else we want, Harris, and we'll debate a lot. Look at those officers right there. They want to do their job, and they know that in order to do their job, they have to go to the places, whether it's a white neighborhood, black neighborhood, or brown neighborhood, where there is crime, and protect the people who are under the thumb of the criminals and the gang members. You don't win unless you are in those streets. That's the definition of community policing. Being in the community to prevent crime and then crack down on it when it happens, no matter how big, no matter how small. That's what they want to do. But city leaders have tied their hands, and as a result, they're going to more funerals because they can't be proactive. Call it the Ferguson effect, call it what you want. They're not able to be aggressive and proactive because they've become the targets, not just of criminals, but of politicians. It has to stop if we want to get our cities back.
Look, President of the United States is supposed to meet with the new mayor of New York City. 8.8 million people here. He's going to meet with him with everything that's unfolded this week. Will he meet with that liberal DA, Alvin Bragg, along with the mayor, Eric Adams? There's the question. All right, let's get to this. You want to know how bad it got? At the height of the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests, Seattle city officials reportedly considered just handing over the East Precinct building to violent rioters. The Seattle Times has obtained this draft resolution so we can read it for ourselves. This would have transferred permanent use or ownership of the East Precinct to the local chapter of the Black Lives Matter organization, effective July 1st, 2020. Just let that sink in for a second. It didn't happen. But remember what did happen. So the city then sees the anarchists coming. And they ended up taking that area anyway. They called it the chop zone. The city let them keep it. While night after night after night, we saw violence rocking that city. Pete.
They gave it up. And we were told by Mayor Jenny Durkan and others that it would be a summer of love. Instead, we got an autonomous zone and we got police attacked. Think about this. So a precinct is under siege. And this was not just a passing recommendation, Harris, when you read the reporting on this. There were 3 memos considered over a matter of weeks as to whether or not the city would give up effectively a $5 million property to a new organization as a penance, basically to say, an extortion, to say, stop assaulting and accosting our officers here. They didn't end up doing it. Now, everyone's trying to wash their hands of it. But if your instinct in the moment is to bend to the criminality and the mobs, no wonder cities like Seattle and Portland and LA and Chicago and New York are being run effectively by criminals these days. They feel like if their demands are hot and harsh enough, they'll get what they want. And they almost got a police precinct from a mayor gifted to them as a result of their violence. Wow.
Whew. What else don't we know? We'll keep digging.
Exactly.
Pete Hegseth, thank you very much for being in focus.
Thank you, Harris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.